Good day, everyone. My name is Ayana, and I'm here with Don. And this is our discussion on, is netball the most important sport for the advancement of females here in Trinidad? And to do this, the first thing we're going to talk about is the history of women in sport. So, Don?
Right, so good night. Um, well, when you look at the history of female sport, we would see that in the early days, women weren't allowed to take part in sport. Their roles in sport, well, what they did, they were responsible for cooking the food, taking care of the children, washing the clothes. They weren't a part of the sport. That was their role in sport. And so, most or majority of our sports came from Europe, and that tradition sort of was passed down to us here in the Caribbean. And so because of that, we still see some remnants of that mindset or that behavior taking place today. And with that, over time, we have made some progress, and we have seen where women are now encouraged to take part in sport, be interested in sport, and look for a career in sport.
All right, so in that sense, we could say that we've made some advancements in that aspect, but it also have like a lot more that could be done in terms of really encouraging women and keeping them in, like getting them interested and keeping them interested in the sport in a sense.
Yeah, we have, although we have made a lot of advancement in female sport, we as a society have a lot more work to do with regards to getting our women involved in sport and keeping them in sport. When you look at, when you compare Trinidad and Tobago to the countries around the world, when you look at the major sporting events and you look at the numbers of females, you would see, most times they'll be matching up to the men when they go to these games or these international meets and stuff. Sometimes you see a small amount of women or no women at all in representing Trinidad and Tobago. So, although we have seen advancements, we still have a lot more work to be done. I believe having that mindset of making this claim that netball is the only or the most important sport for the advancement of women in sports is one that we shouldn't be proud of to make. As I said, we have seen advancement of sports on the whole, and it's just a matter of looking at our weaknesses and trying to strengthen them.
Yeah, but what I believe that, most people, like when they think of advancements in sport, they wouldn't really go to netball because, I mean, if you look at it in terms of the successes of like female track and field athletes over the years, I would understand why most people would think that track and field is the sport that is most responsible, even though I don't really support that idea because, like I said, I believe that all sports, if we're looking for advancements, we're looking for advancements in all sporting areas and not just with one sporting discipline. So, but I understand why people would feel that track and field is the most important.
Yeah, people may feel that track and field is the most important because I believe that is where we probably have seen um, most achievements coming from with regards to sport and female sport, rather. So sometimes we might get the impression when we did our research, we saw that many of the people had that same opinion. And it just goes to show that, firstly, we could understand now that netball isn't the only sport. And secondly, how much how much other achievements we have in other sports. And so again, it's just a matter of working with all sports and encouraging women to participate and do well and giving them that support. You know, we touched a bit of equity and equality in sports and giving women that fair treatment um, compared to their male counterparts in sports. And I believe that is something that is very important and very crucial with the advancement of sports as a whole in Trinidad and Tobago.
Yeah, exactly. And it brings me to a topic that I'm really very passionate about, in the sense that, okay, so in 1994, Trinidad and Tobago signed a declaration. It's called the the Bridgeton Declaration, that is basically state that they support, or they are working towards, equality and equity for women in sports. And the declaration had 10 principles, and these 10 principles is like, is supposed to champion equity and equality for women. And one of those principles, I believe, is really important. It says that resources and power should be allocated equally among male and female teams. And we know for a fact that in today's society here in Trinidad and Tobago, that females continue to receive less funding than males. And I think that that is an area that we really need to work on and fix that, because females need more funding in order to really push towards that equality and equity in sports.
Yeah, I think it's important for us to understand the difference between equity and equality.
Yes.
Many of us feel as though because we give everybody the fair chance, mean we're doing something good. But it's not just about giving the same amount of funding or giving money. Sorry, it's about giving funding to say, well, I'll fund this event, or allowing the athletes to train because it's just there's their place to train. I think we have to go a little more deeper into it and look at what we need to do specifically for our women in sports, and that's where the difference comes in. With regards to dealing with female sports as opposed to males.
Yeah, and that's a good point with the equity, because equity means fairness. So just because you give us the same amount doesn't mean that you're really helping us to say, because we may need more, right? So you need to give us what we need in order to reach that point, or where we need to go.
Yeah, I think we need to be a little more fair, and it's not so much about giving money or funding, or giving them, providing resources for them, facilities, etc. It sometimes may not just be enough. We need to do more with regards to giving them support and attention. So for instance, a lot of our games are shown live on television, especially now with COVID. But how much of our population would actually know that the game is taking place. And then secondly, if they know, how much of them would actually watch the game live. And so that just goes to show where the work that needs to be done with regard to giving them the support and the attention that they need. Sometimes, it's just not so much about the tangible things that we could offer, but we need to give them that emotional support as well.
Another important point. So,
all work together and mesh to encourage or what do you think to work together, and these are the things which would contribute to the advancement of sports, of human sports.
yeah, and I was thinking, if it is you look at it from like a sociological standpoint, more specifically a critical, you really need to start asking like some serious hard-hitting questions in terms of, we have a lot of athletes, Trinidad and Tobago athletes, who are in foreign countries because those foreign countries give them the support and the the attention and stuff that they need in order for them to push forward in their sporting discipline. So what they really need to do is ask serious questions in terms of like, what are they doing that we are not doing? You understand? And stuff like that in order to really move forward in terms of advancements.
Yeah, that's a very important point, because I mean, I find it hard that many of our athletes, I would say, have to be forced to find that support elsewhere. I mean, it shouldn't be. I mean, at the same time, I'm grateful for that because they still have the opportunity. However, I mean, they shouldn't have to be forced to get it elsewhere. It should be that Trinidadians should appreciate the achievements of our females in sport. And because of that, we should give them what they need to be excellent, to excel in the area. It have a lot of women who may not see their full potential, may not be as fortunate as others to experience that going away or going abroad to get their full potential. And they suffer the consequence of that due to the lack of support from right here. I just believe that if it is, we change our mindset as a society, we will see a lot more achievements coming from our women.
Yeah, I also believe that as well. Another thing that we really want to discuss is in terms of the successes of female athletes over the years. So persons like Kellyanne Batiste, Michelle Liai, Pasha Borrell, all these Olympians, these female Olympians.
Yeah, we have footballers like Kenya Corner, Mary Atten. We have swimmers, Chantal Inns, cyclists like what's her name? Tennille Campbell, I believe is her name. She's in France right now. All of these women and many more are on their way to achieving or have achieved a lot in sports and are on their way to achieve many more. There was a lady, I can't remember her name right now, she represented Trinidad and Tobago in rowing. And I found that very interesting because, firstly, I don't know much about rowing. But when I found out that we had representation in that field, I was pleased because in her own way, she was putting Trinidad and Tobago on the map, and she did well. So we have seen where Trinidad and Tobago was well represented by women. And because of that, well, represented by women in majority of sports, I should say. And because of that, we see, or we could say now that netball isn't the most important sport. We believe now that it's more collective effort of all sports. And as long as we do what we're supposed to do, we will be able to see a lot more coming from our women.
Yes. So with that being said,
Okay.
with that being said, that brings us to the end of our discussion.